Here are some thoughts. One, one strategy that was taught to me years ago by my guitar teacher. I didn't study with him for that long, but I learned so much from him. Jay Roberts, son of Howard Roberts, who was part of the, I think they would have been the Wrecking Crew. I get these studio musician groups mixed up, but anyway, he recorded he did the Twilight Zone riff, the dee 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 dee. He
Oh, wow.
recorded it on a Telecaster. I actually got to play that Telecaster when I was taking lessons from Jay because he had his dad's guitar. Anyway, one thing that Jay taught me as I was learning the caged system with him was that you should get to know one scale well before you move on to another one. And of course, different people have different tolerances for complexity. And so, I wouldn't say you should always follow this, but I think for most people, you're going to progress most quickly and retain what you're learning if you learn like one of the scales in the cage system, like a major or minor scale or a pentatonic scale, and get to the point where you can make music with it. And for most people, that's going to mean improvising a simple guitar solo. Get to know that before you move on to other scale patterns. Maybe, learn another one if you feel like it, but don't try to learn the whole cage system one after the other from the get-go. It'll be unsatisfying, and you'll probably forget a lot of what you're working on. So like those pentatonic patterns that you're talking about, those are great to use when you're learning how to improvise. And so I would get to the point where you're improvising, and I'll get to that in a second, how you can do that, before you start mapping out a bunch of other scale patterns. Does that make sense so far?
It does. Yeah, that's surprising to hear, but that's good to hear. It makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great. And then as you're practicing these scales, there's kind of a three-step process that musicians go through. They start by memorizing a scale in a linear way. So the scale patterns that you were talking about, these fifth string root pentatonic scales, like that would be one repetition of that major pentatonic scale. The minor pentatonic version is, and so forth. So anyway, you learn that scale in a linear way just by going up and down it a lot. And then the second step is to sequence it. Like if you're playing the major scale, after you learn how to do it in a linear way, you can get to know it in a deeper way by doing what's called sequencing. And here, there are a handful of patterns that guitarists have really found useful. One of them is to go up, it's called sequencing by fours. And what you do is you go up four notes in the scale, we'll number each of these notes in the scale by their scale degree. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so forth. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go to the second note in the scale, which is 2 now, right? And we go 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we go to the third note in the scale, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it ends up sounding like this. And then you can do it down, and so forth. And what that does is break up your sequential memory of the scale. Sequential memory is like our ability to remember stuff in sequence, the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. If you try to do that backwards, starting with Z, it's a lot harder, right? Because you are out of sequence there. You're doing it in a backwards sequence. And while sequential memory is very helpful for us to memorize stuff, you don't want your guitar solos to all sound like you're practicing a scale, right? That's not very musical. And so since melodies tend to be most pleasing when they jump around some, you want to train yourself to be able to jump around in your scale. And one of the ways of doing that is by practicing sequences. So I know, you probably need a little bit more guidance there before you start sequencing your scale a lot, but I would at least try to do that sequencing by fours. Teach yourself how to do that, and you'll be well on your way to getting to know the scale in a deep way. And then after you've learned it in a linear way and then learned how to sequence it some, then I would practice improvising with it, which a lot of people really find daunting, but I really encourage you to try it out. And this is a simple formula you can follow. First of all, you need to know what key you're in. So hopefully you know what key the scale is in. And then just go on YouTube and choose a genre you like, smooth jazz or country or hard rock, and just punch in that genre and then say the key of the scale you're playing and type backing track. So like country backing track, key of C, or country backing track, key of E flat. And you'll get a whole list of recordings of songs that, and you can call it like guitar backing track, and that way there won't be any lead guitar in it. And so you get this band backing you up, and you can just start playing notes in the scale along with this backing track. And the way I do it with my students, just to kind of ease them into it, is, they'll play the backing track at first. I'll play the backing track for them, and I'll just have them play the root note of the scale along with it, which tends to sound good with most of the chords in that key. So if they're in the key of C, and it's a simple progression like C, F, G, what I'll do is just have them play that root note and play around with rhythms. Something like that. Do that for a while before you start expanding into something like that. So there's some guidelines for learning how to improvise playing your scale. You also had a question about can I learn my scales by actually playing real music? Like, are there songs that feature scales? And I love that question because, as much as possible, you want to be applying this, for what some people consider kind of tedious work in learning guitar. You want to be able to make real music with it. I was thinking about it, and going back to that idea of most good melodies jump around, it's pretty rare that you're going to have music that just plays a scale in sequence. One immediate thought, though, you were talking about the major and minor pentatonic scale. The song My Girl, the old Temptation song?
Yeah.
Recognize that? That's the major scale. Yeah. I got sunshine. And then something like, on a cloudy day. It's just the C major pentatonic scale and then the F major pentatonic scale, back and forth. And so that can be a fun song to, learn the pentatonic scale with. The examples are pretty rare. Another one is Nutcracker's Pas de Deux. This wouldn't necessarily be a good song on guitar, but if you know the Nutcracker, that bum 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 bum, that lovely, gorgeous, romantic, slow song in the middle of the Nutcracker. where it's just the male and female lead up there doing incredibly gorgeous ballet. That song was written, I've heard, because of a bet between Tchaikovsky and I guess his drinking buddy or something. His friend said, "I'll bet you can't write a beautiful piece of music whose melody just features the major scale." And Tchaikovsky's like, "You're on, dude." Hey, I hope you liked this lesson. If you did, please click the like button. You can also subscribe to my channel. And if you really want the good stuff, become a member of Heart with Guitar. You can click the link below to learn more. Hope to see you there. Take care.